They humiliated him for being poor. Then he came back as their boss. Everyone in the town knew Daniel as the poor boy. Not by name. Not by talent. Not by kindness. Just the poor boy. His shoes were always worn. His clothes were always faded. And every morning, he walked past luxury cars just to reach the same school where rich kids laughed at him. But what nobody knew was that Daniel was watching, learning, and waiting. Daniel's father died when he was 10 years old. His mother washed clothes for rich families just to put food on the table. Every day, Daniel carried a torn backpack and a lunch of dry bread. One morning in the school cafeteria, a boy named Victor stood up and shouted, "Hey everyone! Look at Daniel's lunch again. Dry bread and water. Is that what poverty tastes like?" The whole cafeteria burst into laughter. Someone grabbed Daniel's bread and threw it into the trash. Victor smirked and said, "Oops. Guess today you'll eat shame instead." Daniel bent down and picked up the bread from the trash. His hands were shaking, but he didn't cry. Not in front of them. Another day during sports class, the teacher asked everyone to bring sports shoes. Daniel came in his old torn sneakers. Victor pointed and said loudly, "Sir, those shoes belong in a museum of poverty." The class laughed again. The teacher said nothing. Daniel ran barefoot that day on hot concrete while everyone watched. Daniel had only one friend. Her name was Myra. She was kind and shared her lunch with him. One afternoon, Daniel heard voices behind the school building. It was Victor and Myra. Victor said, "Why do you even talk to him? He's nothing. Stay with me and I'll buy you a phone." Myra hesitated, then said, "Okay." Daniel stood frozen. The one person he trusted sold him for comfort. That night, Daniel cried for the first time in years. Not because of hunger. Not because of poverty. But because of betrayal. He stood in front of a cracked mirror and whispered, "I will never beg again. I will never be weak again. And one day, they will bow." He found old books in a junkyard, business books, computer books, and finance books. At night, while others slept, Daniel studied under candlelight. He learned coding from free cybercafes. He fixed broken computers for neighbors. He saved every coin. While others laughed, Daniel built. One rainy day, Daniel collapsed on the road. He hadn't eaten for 2 days. A man stopped his car and asked, "Why are you lying in the rain, boy?" Daniel answered, "I'm tired of being poor." The man smiled and said, "I was once too." The man took Daniel home, fed him, and said, "I run a small tech repair shop. Work for me. Learn." Daniel accepted. For 3 years, he repaired phones, built websites, and learned business. The man taught him one rule: never show your power too early. After finishing school, Daniel vanished. No one saw him again. Victor thought, "Good. One poor boy less." Myra married a rich man. But somewhere, Daniel was working. He built a software company in silence. He failed 3 times. Lost money twice. Got betrayed by partners once. But he remembered every insult. Every laugh. Every thrown piece of bread. 10 years later, a luxury car drove into town. People whispered, "Who is that?" A tall man in a black suit stepped out. Calm. Cold. Powerful. It was Daniel. A big meeting was announced, new company buying half the town's businesses. Victor was now a manager at one of those companies. He walked into the meeting room confidently. Then he saw Daniel sitting at the head of the table. Victor laughed and said, "Nice joke. Why is this guy sitting there?" The board members stood up and said, "Meet the owner." Victor's smile disappeared. Daniel spoke slowly, "I was poor once. Now I own this building." The room went silent. Victor begged later, "I was young. I was stupid." Daniel replied, "You taught me discipline. Pain taught me patience." Victor was fired that week. Daniel later visited Myra. She lived in a big house but looked tired. She said, "I always believed in you." Daniel smiled sadly and said, "No. You believed in comfort." She cried and said, "I made a mistake." Daniel replied, "Some mistakes build futures. Some destroy trust." He walked away. That night, Daniel stood on a balcony overlooking the city. He remembered the trash bread, the barefoot run, the betrayal. He whispered, "I survived." But success felt empty until he built a school for poor children. He fed them, clothed them, and said, "They laughed at me once. Now I build paths for you." They humiliated him when he had nothing. They ignored him when he was struggling. They feared him when he rose. But the real victory was not becoming rich. It was becoming unstoppable. Moral: never laugh at the poor. You may be laughing at a future king.